done it. She had betrayed him. It was an act of treachery that he had not foreseen, because it did not make sense. Unless everything she had said about Corral and Sagat had been a lie, how could she imagine that she was better off or safer now? How was she to know that he would not retaliate by denouncing her adultery to the caste elders? He had nothing left to lose. Or had she forestalled this by confessing to Corral and buying her safety with her knowledge of the two murders? Dazil, Corral and Sagat, a triangle of silence and dark secrets festering away at the heart of that god-forsaken moon. It seemed appropriate. No! It was incomprehensible. Whatever the truth about the deaths on Caraville, Dazil's fear had been real, and she must surely have put herself in far greater danger now. He had plenty of time to wonder, because he had been thrown without ceremony into a featureless cell and left there. For 3 days, a silent servant had brought him a tray of food and drink, but nobody had come to interrogate him, and he was obviously not even being accorded the honour of a sword-bearer guard. He had no clothes other than the night shift he'd been wearing when he'd been arrested, and no possessions he ever hoped to see again. He had become a negative entity, stripped of everything physical, and for the moment, everything mental except rage against her. Without any clue about what was going to happen to him now, other than Samuel's claim that he would be hauled before a council of his clan, he had nothing else to think about. When he had first arrived, he had demanded to speak to General Neveth and any of the other commanders on Antra whose names he could remember. The servant guards ignored him, and the door was slammed shut. Exposed, he had lost every vestige of power and personal authority. He was invisible and inaudible. On the 3rd day, the guard opened the door earlier than the usual time and let in the last person that Jay had expected to see here. He rose from the bench where he had been gazing at the wall and stared at Sagat. "This man is a dangerous criminal," said Sagat to the guard, keeping his eyes fixed on Jay. "I need to talk to him alone. Restrain him." Jay stood absolutely still and unresisting, while the guard bound his hands behind his back and his ankles together with restraining bonds, and then allowed himself to be pushed into a sitting position on the bench. The murderous intent in Sagat's eyes was unmasked, shining and unmistakable. "Now leave us alone," he growled. There was a long silence after the door slammed shut behind the guard. "Are you going to kill me like this, Sagat?" said Jay eventually. "Is this your idea of honourable sword-bearer conduct?" He was cut short by a blow to his diaphragm that doubled him over and took all his breath in one explosion of pain. The next knocked him sideways off the bench, and he slid helplessly onto the floor as Sagat's boot slammed into his ribs. "I'm not going to kill you today, you filthy worm. I wouldn't dirty my sword with your servant blood. I'm here to pay you back for shaming Lord Corral, and to tell you that if what you did on Caraville ever becomes known, I will track you down and finish the job, I swear." He punctuated this speech with vicious kicks and punches, landing them at random. Jay tried to roll over against the wall for protection, but he was too much at a disadvantage to have any chance, even of twisting away from one blow before another fell. He heard a sharp crack as a rib shattered, then saw a shower of bright lights descending into hazy red darkness when a boot smashed into his face. He never quite lost consciousness completely. For a long time after the boot came towards his eyes, he was aware of intense, jolting pain and an ever-tightening suffocation. Fighting for breath when he managed to open his eyes, he saw the floor and a pool of blood spreading out slowly from his mouth, and the bottom of the door closing. He knew he had to stay awake to stay alive. He could not move, and he could not make a sound. He could just about draw breath. For what might have been hours, he lay still, watching and feeling his own blood congealing around him, until at last the servant came with his evening meal, dropped the tray on the floor with a clang which jolted his fading senses, and ran. Only when someone stooped over him and touched him did he let go. How is this allowed to happen? No, don't tell me. It was a rhetorical question. It's painfully obvious. This camp is a shambles. One voice was very strong, much stronger than the rest, and penetrated above a hazy babble of others surrounding it. Yes, sir. Well, I haven't come halfway across the Empire to have him die on me. Make sure he lives. And do something about his face. Don't leave it to heal like that. I want no visible scars. You understand? Sir. Bring him to me when he's on his feet. I'm not going anywhere in the meantime.